In 1914, Germany was a manufacturing powerhouse and had recently passed England as the strongest economy in Europe. As a fledgling nation, with a rapidly growing population and only a few small colonies, Germany did not have the resources to support itself, unlike the British and French, who could draw on their vast colonial holdings for all the raw materials they needed. Germany focused its efforts on developing its steel industry, which helped to drive economic growth and cement the country as the economic epicenter of industrialized Europe. However, as its economy had grown, so too did the physical threats to its sovereignty. For 17 years, the steady hands of Otto von Bismarck had been at the helm of German government. He forged an alliance with Austria-Hungary to defend against possible Russian aggression, and held a fragile agreement with Russia, which built economic and military cooperation between the two powers, and kept Germany's eastern border secure. However, by 1890, Bismarck found himself politically isolated, and after a disagreement with Kaiser Wilhelm I, he was forced to resign. He was replaced with Leo von Caprivi, who favored closer ties with Britain over an alliance with Russia, thereby ending the reinsurance treaty. Following Bismarck's dismissal, the military gained influence and pushed for a more aggressive policy against Russia. The Russians, fearful of German-Austrian hostility, went looking elsewhere for allies and found a willing partner in the French. Bismarck's worst fears were confirmed, as Germany now faced hostile powers in both the West and East. In the South, Germany maintained its alliance with Austria-Hungary, a fractious country with many competing ethnic groups of varying religious and linguistic identities. Over time, this alliance became more of a hindrance than an advantage, as the expansionistic Austro-Hungarians became embroiled in a dispute with Serbia, an ally of Russia. Tensions reached a breaking point on June 28, 1914, when Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip shot and killed Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Within a few weeks, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, who sent a call for help to her powerful neighbor in the east. The Russians declared war on Austria-Hungary, threatening Germany's entire southeast border. Austria-Hungary was also a valuable trading partner, as the oil wells in Galicia were the only source of oil the Central Powers controlled. This gave Germany's aggressive generals all the pretext they needed to convince the Kaiser that a declaration of war was necessary to the well-being of the country. Just as Austria-Hungary was a crucial proxy for Germany in 1914, in a similar way, Iran has become necessary to China's continued economic prosperity and growth. As of 2019, about 6% of Chinese oil imports came from Iran. The country is also in the midst of building its One Belt, One Road initiative, which is chiefly a modernization of the ancient Silk Road. The plan calls for the construction of a series of railroads, highways, and ports that will give China a powerful overland supply route to the Middle East and Europe. The goal of this project will be to wean China away from its dependence on its eastern ports, which currently receive up to 80% of all imports. These ports are vulnerable to blockade, and if conflict ever arises, let's say with the United States, the Chinese plan to be prepared. For decades, the crux of U.S. foreign policy has been to install a new regime in Iran, thereby solidifying Western control of the Middle East. However, China's One Belt, One Road initiative has added new urgency to U.S. calls for intervention in Iran. If the U.S. can find a reasonable casus belli, they could cut off a sizable section of the Silk Road, take control of vast oil reserves, and finish off the only credible opponent that Israel faces. For decades, the Chinese have assisted in the development of Iran's oil fields. They have sworn to protect this vital infrastructure, even if defending it could cause World War III. Clearly, China is willing to protect Iran, whatever the cost. In World War I, Germany had the same binding relationship with Austria-Hungary, which dragged them and much of Europe into ruin. Here we have an opportunity to learn from history. If the US goads Iran into open war, a domino effect could plunge the whole world into war and possible oblivion. Let us learn from history and avoid a terrible mistake that we will never be able to take back.